Well, hello, hello, hello. I'm. It's been a while since I've been back on to talk about loss and grief and the things that you know that I've been through. And I thank many of you that have come on and been signed on with me through Angel Ray's page, Angel Ray's account, and she's the one that wrote and produced the story of Sam's Cry, and that is the based on true story of my son. And I just wanted to come back on. It's been a minute, and to talk a little bit about grief. Grief, and that because I know that I'm not the only one, and I wanted to just talk a little bit about many of you that have lost a mom, a dad, a sister, a brother, a child. Loss is loss. And but I think that there's a real difference when a mother has lost a child, when you have lost a child, whether he or she was 4 years old or 24 years old, 8 years old or 28 years old. And Sam was 28 years old. And I think that losing a child, I have lost my mom, my dad. I have lost a couple of brothers, but it doesn't come close to what it feels like to lose a child. And some of you that have lost a child will know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not the same. And grief is different for everybody. And we'll never stop grieving. My own personal experience, I will never stop grieving. It's a real blow. It's been since 1999. That's almost 2000, and here we are many years later, 20 years later, and I'm still grieving. I didn't know. I used to think that maybe it's the day will just come little by little and it just leaves you, and you're fine. You're perfectly fine. But through the years, I've learned as well through my experience and through my trauma that it never goes away. Loss never goes away. We do get better. We don't grieve as hard anymore, but it never really goes away. We learn to live our life around it, and just little by little get back into whatever we thought was normal. But during the time when we're going through our processing our loss and going through the should haves, I could haves, if I would have just, I went through all that as well. And today, 20 years down the road, I'm not the same person. And the best way I could describe, for me, everyone's different, but for me, is like having a leg amputated. That's what, I don't know, I've never had something amputated, but that's what my emotions feel like. Like a piece of me is not the same anymore. A piece of me was cut off, and it feels like it's my heart. Like a chunk was taken from my heart. And although I recovered, I'm not the same no more. Although I go on in life and I speak at different places, I share my experiences, I do lots of things, but I'm not the same no more. And you may find that you are not the same no more. I honestly believe, I can't call it and say that's what it is going to be like, but I honestly believe that we're never going to be the same. Do we heal? Yes, to a certain extent, but you always have that emotional scar, and it's in our heart. We always have that song that goes on and reminds you of somewhere you were at with that person that you lost. That scent, a certain scent, like my son's cologne. That certain look. I'll even see people in public. I've seen a person that looked just like him, and as crazy as this sounds, I have followed that person just to look at them because they look just like my Sam. And felt like such an idiot thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing? But I have followed someone for a short time and thought, man, that looks like my Sam. Looks like my Sam. And so, but I never wanted to become bitter about that. And even though Sam left us in a very horrific way, but I still didn't want to stay bitter about it, but better about it. How, I don't know. But through the years, I have learned to process and just move on by myself, and just figured it out, like a lot of us are. And some of us might go to counseling. Some might have to take, pills to sleep at night, pills to wake up and maintain to go to work the next day. Some of us has careers. Everybody is different. So we can't say that, oh, that's the way it's going to be for me. I understand that it is not that way. But I am okay today. With God's help, I survived it and didn't lose my mind. I thank God I didn't lose my mind over this, because I did feel like I was going to lose it sometimes. And it was a very difficult time in life. And I'm grateful to God for keeping my mental together when I felt like I wasn't going to be okay. I did survive. And, I wrote a couple of notes because I don't like to go by script, but, when you're sharing a lot of things that you wanted to say, you don't say because you forgot, whatever. But mostly everything I have said already is that losing a child is devastating, and it is a lot more different than losing an uncle or an aunt, or, a mom or a dad. And so there's no name, for us to have lost a child. When you lose a spouse, you lose a husband, a wife, we become a widow. Whether it's a man, a woman, we become a widow. I know I became a widow. And, but there's no name to describe when you lose a child. There's no name to call a parent that lost a child. Losing a child is so unbearable. It is so unbearable. And it depends, I think, in the way that they've also left, whether it was because it was a cancer, it was an illness, it was a motorcycle accident, it was a car accident, they were shot, someone, it just depends on how they went as well. That really drives it home, and some of you that have seen the movie, and I'm hopeful that you've seen it, will know that it wasn't an easy pill to swallow for me. But it felt unbearable, and that I was not going to survive. I did not think I would emotionally survive. I mean, my heart was crushed. I had no words. I cried and cried and cried for years. I'd cry. And most of the time that I cried alone in private, because I didn't do a whole lot of crying. And the first 5 years I didn't, because I was busy out demonstrating, doing rallies, doing press conferences, meeting with people, and all that was part of my grieving. All that I learned later, because I didn't do a lot of crying, because I was busy fighting for justice. I just wanted justice, and I didn't do a whole lot of crying, even at times when I was doing a demonstration everywhere, in the state buildings and state, federal, I was doing demonstrations everywhere to tell my story to everybody and anybody that would listen to what they did to my Sam. And so I didn't do a lot of grieving, and I later learned, and I later understood and interpreted that part of my grieving was these demonstrations. Part of my grieving and crying was on that bullhorn. Part of grieving was speaking at the state capitol and bringing my point across, and telling my story over and over and over. I was my son's voice so to speak, as crazy as that sounds. I was my son's voice for justice. And so I was on a mission, ladies. I was on a mission. Gentlemen, I was on a mission. I had my teeth like a bulldog bitten on, and I was not about to let go until I got justice. So, you know, that was my grieving. We all grieve differently. I believe that a lot of my grieving took place during those 5 years. That was my grieving, as I spoke and told my story and kept feeling like I was Sam's voice. And I kept sharing, you know, different experiences. And then later on, I would grieve. And, you know, and I had to keep it together because I still had a son and I had a daughter, one more son and one more daughter. And God blessed me with 3 children, Samuel, Abraham, and Sarah. And so I still had Abraham and Sarah with me. And so I tried to hold it together as best as I could. But, you know, when you're grieving, when you have loss in you in this capacity, we become very sensitive. Very sensitive. We become emotionally fragile. I don't know if some of you can relate to that. You become very emotionally sensitive and fragile about everything. We're short triggered because things are on our mind. We go through guilt trips, the should have, the could have. If I would have just, they would probably still be here. We go through all kinds of scenarios. I went through all those. Had I not done this, that, or the other, he'd still be with me. Did my son know? You know, I thought about his last moments, his last seconds. Did he know that Mama loved him? Did he know that I was with him? Did he know? I mean, all those things, you know, cross our minds, or it crossed mine. It's kind of like, being tired and being very, very, very tired, but sleep doesn't fix that. Tired and exhausted, but sleep doesn't fix any of that. You know, it's something that just doesn't go away. When one person is missing, like from our family, our little family, just that one, it just missing one feels like the whole world is missing. So I get it. You know, we're not the same after, and I'm just sharing my experience of, yes, I had a daughter and a son, but it just wasn't the same no more with one of my children that were gone. Life just goes on and on and on while we're trying to figure things out. That's the chicken part of it, that while we're trying to figure things out and try to stay healthy and try to stay mindful, life just goes on. I remember even feeling guilty at one time because I remember the time when I laughed. Something made me laugh. It was funny, and I felt guilty because I laughed. And I thought, you know, wait a minute. Sam isn't here. Why am I laughing? But I just want to say that if you've gone through any of those things, it is normal. It is normal to go through all that. We all want the pain to just leave. We want to live without pain. And so that we can just go back to normal. What is normal? Well, for me, normal was normal with Sam. And the reality is, it's never going to be normal because he's not going to be here no more. And I get it. And you may get it. But we can just understand and come to a realization that we're never going to be the same. A part of my heart was amputated. And so I can just make the best of it. The best of it. We never truly will get over our loss. But in time, we slowly just move forward with the best that we can. And I think when I come back on, maybe tomorrow, I will share about what I did that helped me go forward. Because if you don't, then you always carry around all that weight and can't live in the present because we're living in the past. In some way, somehow, we got to figure out how to get all that and just live life today. And that's where I'm at today. I'm doing very productive things, but it wasn't easy getting there, but I want you to know that doing what I'm doing today, because I have a couple of nonprofits, it's helped me heal. Am I the same? No. But I want you to know that you can recover. You can be better, but be better and not bitter. So I'll come back on again tomorrow. I don't want to lag on and go on and on because I know that I only have so many minutes. But thank you all for listening and for sharing. Please do put on your questions if you have any questions and, comments. I would appreciate good comments that have to do with grief and loss for right now. And I'm not trying to attract any of you, any gentlemen that some of you are sending me comments, oh, hey, baby, you look nice, or hey, sweetheart. I appreciate that and I thank you, but that's not what I'm trying to do. And I am not trying to fish or look out there for someone, but just be respectful, please, because it's not easy. It's not easy. And I thank you though for your comments and your kindness, but I am not looking for any kind of other comments besides what we're talking about here. And so we ask you to refrain from any side comments like that. Okay, let's be respectful, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. And again, ladies, gentlemen, if you have had a loss and you're struggling, I'm not saying I have all the answers, but it took a good hit on me for a lot of years to come to where I'm at today. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I used to be. And that was a terrible time for me to be where I was, and never thinking I was ever going to come out of it, or, losing a husband, but losing a child. It does something to you. But I'll talk to you tomorrow, and good night, because it is late in the evening. And I wanted to just come to you and share with you just before I check in tonight. So God bless you all. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Blessings.